And again, being a college professor, I reserve the right to call on people. So I'm going to start out with the AmeriCorps table over here and ask one of your folks to share your thoughts. Anybody want to volunteer? All right.
Something that we kind of talked about at our table was green gentrification and how that can be like a big issue and in areas, not in areas where people own their houses, but in areas where there are renters. You start planting a bunch of trees there, increase property value, of course, people out of their homes. We just talked about ways that that can be avoided and like kind of the issues surrounding green gentrification.
Yeah, great issue. How do you engage with somebody like that? There's actually an interesting article, if you really want to read it, it's called Just Green Enough. And it was put out by some folks, I think, at the University of California, Berkeley, if I'm not mistaken. But it basically talks about that and the pitfalls of that. And my friend Jen runs a program in Portland, Oregon to plant trees in communities. And they were getting a lot of rejects for tree planting. They were getting a lot of people that didn't want trees. And they went out and asked, they actually hired somebody to go out and ask people why they didn't want trees. And one of the messages they were using is the tree would increase your property value. And somebody said, hey, I'm a renter. I don't want the property value to increase because then I'm going to have to pay more rent. So that's sort of messaging, but it's really sort of engagement. How do you engage with people to want to make their neighborhood livable enough, but not so livable that they can't afford to live there? Good. Other comments? Volunteers? Go ahead. Could you say that for me? Thanks. You project a lot better when you stand.
I was talking about the fact that in fundraising for Upward Trees, I had an individual say, why would I donate to Upward Trees when organizations like Planned Parenthood and Big Brothers and Sisters have much more value than just planting trees. And I think we experience that in our fundraising efforts as opposed to other nonprofit organizations. And that brought us to one of our members who talked about how you have to equate trees to the arts. So I'm going to let Freddie tell you what he said.
Hi, I'm Andy. I'm new to the area. And one of the things that we spoke about was, how do you get these fundings? And the arts is the method of communication, dance and everything. So why don't we have a tree dance? Why don't we have a tree, drawing contest? Why don't we have a tree poetry contest? Now you engage all the arts into your programs. And one of the things that I'm an architect by trade, and I studied pre-air conditioned architecture. And if you study old architecture, they use trees for energy efficiency. They planted evergreen trees to the north side because they blocked the winter winds, and they also were cedar trees, so they had insect control. They planted deciduous trees on the south side and east and west to shade the buildings. And one of the things I like to compare us to, and I like to make it personal, tree, is we have equal and mirror opposites. We all have roots, like a tree, our feet for stability. We all have a trunk to hold us stable. And we all have branches, and our branches move with the winds. So we can personally connect our human being to a tree. And that's part of the things that we discussed, and I think it's pretty fun to do.
Yeah.
And if you make it fun, people will enjoy it and want to be a part of it.
Yeah.
Thank you.
Thank you. And I think one just a little feedback for me on this is that, and this is bonus because I hadn't planned to talk about this today, but there's a phenomenon known as the tyranny of the or. And what that means is that when you're faced with talking to someone, well, I could give money to this, or we could have more trees, or we could have another police car, And it's really, the tyranny part of it is that we get conditioned to thinking that it's an either-or situation. And the opposite of the tyranny of or is the genius of and. That you can have trees and police, you can have trees planted that help reduce crime that deals with public safety, that has a public safety outcome to it. And I think that as we, sort of navigate the worlds of fundraising or even friend raising for that matter, and engage people, sometimes we have to remind them of that it's not really an either or situation. And I'll tell you, I'll add a line, this was going to be on my next slide, but I'll add it now. One of the problems we've had in urban forestry, in my opinion, in my career, is we've spent so much time trying to make trees more important to people. And that is the wrong approach. We need to spend our time in making trees more integral, not more important. We need to help people understand the connections to trees that are so broad and so wide and so deep that it's not a matter of making trees more important than big brothers, big sisters. It's a matter of how can you connect the big brother, big sister effort to urban forestry? Because there's ways to do it. Thank you. One more.